I paint every single day on Instagram, and you can check out the description below to subscribe. But when you look at my miniatures, you'll see none of them particularly stand out, and that's because I normally finish painting at about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and all I want to do is post and go to bed. But that ends today. If you're a beginner and you're looking to make your photos a little bit more interesting, this is the video for you. I take my miniatures from looking like this to this. What this video isn't is a photography lesson. It's also not about composition, it's more about some techniques that you can use to get your photos looking a little bit more interesting. With that out of the way, let's get started. A photo box. Photo boxes don't have to cost the earth. Instead, I've made mine out of a cardboard box sellotaped together, and most importantly, you want something with the same colour inside. Whether this is paper that you've stuck in place, or maybe it's a black sheet. In this case, this is a nylon sheet. It's the same material that we use to make kids' school clothes here in the UK. I paid about £4 for this, and it's about 1.5 metre by 3 metres, so more than enough to go around. The important thing about the photo box is that same colour. Firstly, it will stop the light from just flickering around, but it will also allow us to crop the image using something like Photoshop or heck, even 3D paint. Sometimes your miniatures will look a little bit yellow. We've all had this conversation where we've messaged a friend and said, hey, this miniature looks like this, but it's better in person, and that's because of the colour of the light. We normally paint maybe with daylight, or we'll either paint with bright white lights. If that's not what you're painting with, I guarantee you your painting will improve substantially if you get one. Same thing with the photography. Here I've taken a photo with just the yellow lights, and here I've taken a photo with the white light. Doesn't the white look better? It looks more realistic to the colours of the model. There are two types of light that I've used. One is a reading light. I bought it from Aldi for about £10. It has a magnifier inside of it, which is pretty handy when you're painting tiny details. However, I can't use the colour brightness setting, and I can't use the colour warmth setting. So instead, here's a slightly pricier one. This was £12.99, and I bought it off of Amazon, so you should be able to get something similar. This allows me to change the colour of the light from a warmish orange to a bright cold blue. But more importantly, I can also change the brightness. Doesn't that make the photo look better? If this is all beginning to sound a bit too expensive or taking up too much space, don't panic, there are some cheap alternatives. Here is something that I paid £15 for. It's a light box off of Amazon that has LEDs that are charged off of a USB cable. It also has different inserts, so I can easily put in a different colour. My model features a lot of black and white, I could use green, well, hence green screen. This is going to allow me to take much nicer photos. If you really want to up your game and you particularly use things like Techtop or Instagram, you could consider taking some, I was going to say moving photos, but those are videos. This is just a spinning plate that I got off of Amazon for about £8.99. The one problem with it is it has a highly reflective top. So to solve this, you could put on a Warhammer base, or here I've taken a wooden plinth and stuck my models on. The base takes about 50 seconds to rotate, which is slightly too long. If I put it on a time lapse of ×10 speed using, well, just my phone, you'll see that it goes a little bit too fast, like a roundabout from hell. If I put it on 5 times speed though, I get a much more measured response, and I think it makes for a much more interesting visual. What about the biggies? Sometimes your models are just too big to fit in your photo box. And that's where the black sheet comes in. Again, remember, this is cheap as chips. Just make sure you've got something that's preferably crease proof, so you don't have to iron it every time you use it, and not too reflective. I've draped mine over just a hobby horse, a clothes horse if you will. And this allows me to set up my Sons of Behemoth army in all their mighty glory and take some nice photos. I'm using the lights from before to create some shadows. And if you really want to create some controlled environments, turn off your lights. Yeah, it can be a little bit dark, but this will allow us much greater control. If your lights are too bright, consider putting something over the top to muffle them, whether this is cotton wool or just a white sheet. No, never leave these unattended though, because you wouldn't want to start a fire. Terrain is also a great way to make your models stand out and be a little bit more interesting. Here I've put my Spartan Blood Bowl team on a nice set of pillars from the Playmobil Colosseum set. It really adds a little something. You could do the same thing with your bigger models. Here I've put a graveyard set out for my Sons of Bahamut as if they're marching through the graveyard and destroying it. Make sure not to go over the top. The terrain's not the focus in these photos, but your models. I mean, if they're giants, they really do stand out big. The last thing you consider are backlights. I got these for £10 off of Amazon, and they can have several different colours. You can do them as USB charged, or you can do them as battery powered. I can put these behind my miniatures to create this reddish glow, although do be careful, if the lights are actually visible, it can ruin your shots. What I really should have done is either blue tacked or double-sided sticky taped these to the underneath of the Colosseum so they weren't visible. Alternatively, you can use them as front lights. Here I've used them on green to create a sickeningly red glow or a sickeningly green glow from the front of the models. Play around with them, enjoy. Remember, we're all in this hobby together. If you've got any other techniques for beginners, leave them in the comments below. If you want to see more from me, check out this video or this video. Otherwise, remember to battle the backlog.